with you. So happy that you could be here with me. And I invite you to call in. Join in on the conversation. The numbers to call in North America, 1-877-669-1292. Around the world, you could call the same number if you could call a North American 800 number. So that's it. You can feel free to call in. I am happy to be here. I'm Howie Silbiger. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I wanted to talk to you about a whole bunch of stuff. I'm flying solo tonight, so feel free to call in. This is just me and you, an intimate conversation with me and you. So feel free to call in. Feel free to join in the conversation. I would appreciate it. Numbers are there on the top of the screen, or you could dial 1-877-669-1292. So I want to start off with the presidency of the United States. I have been a very vocal supporter of President Donald Trump. I didn't initially start as a supporter of President Trump. I think he has been an awfully good president, but I didn't start off as a supporter of President Trump. I started off as a skeptic, as someone who thought that perhaps President Trump was not the man that was right for the job. And as time went on, the left pushed me into supporting Trump. The tactics that the left used to try to usurp the office of the presidency of the United States was so terrible and so undemocratic and so awful that I had no choice but to stand behind the president, as I would any president that was under that kind of attack. For 4 years, the President of the United States was under constant barrage of attacks from both the other legislative branches of government and from the media. And I supported the president. I supported the office of the presidency and the right of the President of the United States to do what he does and to do it legally and to do it under constitutional law. This is all I've done for 4 years. I've stood there and supported him. And I've made the case, and I continue to make the case, that I will continue to support the President of the United States regardless of who the President of the United States is. Now, let me make it clear. When I say I'm going to support the President of the United States, I'm not necessarily referring to every single policy and every single statement that the President of the United States makes. I'm not necessarily referring to being a starch rah, rah, rah. I'm way 100% behind the President attitude. That's not what I'm talking about. When I say I support the President of the United States, what I mean is I support the office of the President. If the President does not commit crimes, if the President does not do stuff that is unbecoming of the President of the United States, if the President does not demean the office, or Congress does not demean the office, or the Senate does not demean the office of the United States of America, of the President of the United States of America, I stand behind the President. When they do demean the office, or if democracy is at risk, or if if there is an issue with the president, I stand behind the office of the President of the United States. I believe that democracy is good. I believe American democracy and the American political system is probably one of the best political systems in the world, and I stand behind the democratic process of the U.S. electoral system, of the Electoral College. I stand behind the process of the peaceful transition of power, and I stand behind the President of the United States of America, whoever it may be, whoever is elected President of the United States of America. Now, I may disagree with policies. I may disagree with some of the things they say or do, but I believe that the power of the presidency has to be maintained. So it always bothers me when I have friends and other people that I see, and they go out and they try to usurp the president, or they disrespect the office of the president. Now, that's different from disrespecting the president himself. The president's a person. You could disrespect the president. But when they disrespect the position, or they negate the position, or they minimize the position, or they ignore the position, or they insult the position of the president and weaken the democracy of the United States, I have an issue with that. And that's where I stand when it comes to the president. I was asked this, and I'm just going to be totally clear and totally transparent on this. I was asked a question. I'm answering the question I was asked. I stand behind the presidency of the United States of America, regardless of who the president is. If the president does stuff that I don't like, I will criticize the president because that's democratic. That's democracy. If the president passes policies I don't approve of, I don't like, I will talk about those policies and I will criticize those policies because that's what media is supposed to do, and that's what we will continue to do here on the Howie Silbiger Show. Now, those of you who don't like it, that's fine. You always have the option to X me out or turn off your streaming service or turn off the app. You don't have to listen to the show, but that's what this show is all about. We talk politics, we talk religion, and for the most part, I try to tell the truth. I say for the most part because nobody is perfect, and I've made plenty of mistakes. But for the most part, I try to be as accurate as possible, and I try to tell you the truth. And I tell it to you bluntly, and I tell it to you straight to your face. And I'm not afraid to tackle any issue that you throw at me. And that's why I have the lines that are open. And you can call in, you can throw anything you want at me. I am not afraid to tackle anything at all. So now that we're clear on this, on my support of the presidency of the United States, let me talk a little bit about COVID and the ridiculous rules of COVID. It is getting more and more ridiculous, the lockdowns and the rules of procedure when it comes to COVID-19. Yes, the disease is dangerous to 0.01% of the population. Yes, people get sick. Yes, some people, not many, but some people die of the disease. And when I say not many, I'm talking about numbers here. I'm talking about statistical numbers. Statistically, not many people have died from the disease. It is a minor percentage of the population that have died from COVID, even though the numbers are great. And you talk about hundreds of thousands of people who have died from COVID-19. Statistically, the number is minute. And to lock down a population because you have a province that has, or a state that has 20 million people living in it, and 500 people a day have the disease, to lock down the entire province or state is a little draconian and is a little crazy. Now, certain states and certain provinces have upped the ante a little bit, as they say, and part of the ante-upping was that they decided, and I've seen this in 3 or 4 different states in the United States, and I've seen this in one province in Canada at least, maybe 2. They've decided to tell retailers that you can't sell stuff that is non-essential. So if you are in a store that is allowed to be open during a lockdown and you sell essential and non-essential goods, you are not allowed to sell the non-essential goods. Because somehow COVID could differentiate. When you're standing in a store, COVID is able to differentiate between if you're buying underwear or if you're buying a chicken. COVID could tell the difference, and COVID will attack you for buying the underwear. This is the apparent logic behind this rule. Now, I understand that if they want to minimize the amount of shopping. They want to minimize the amount of people in the stores, especially after the holidays, where traditionally stores go on sale and people go out and buy stuff that is discounted. I understand the concept, but the ridiculousness behind the draconian rule that they put into place is absolutely mind-boggling. When you think about COVID and an airborne disease, blocking off the section of the store, people are in the store anyway, blocking off the section of the store that sells dishes is not going to get COVID to avoid going into that point of the store. Blocking off a part of the store that sells clothing isn't going to stop COVID from attacking people who are in the store. If COVID is going to attack people, if there's going to be an outbreak in that store, blocking off the clothing department isn't going to change anything. So it is a little crazy to think that that's what's going on. Now they're closing. They closed everything. All little mom and pop stores are closed. I just got a message on Facebook. Thank you so much for messaging. Please feel free to message on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, or call into the number. Anissa says, I think it's also to support the small mom and pop stores, local stores, as opposed to Walmart. And I agree with you. Okay, so how are we supporting those stores? They've been forced to close. Every store that sells non-essential goods in the province of Quebec has been forced to close. So the mom and pop store can't sell you the underwear or the shirt or the pair of pants. Walmart can't sell you the underwear, the shirt, or the pants. You're not supporting anybody. Because when the mom and pop store is allowed to sell the goods that they're not allowed to sell right now, so will Walmart. So where are we saving anything? Right now, Walmart has to block off half their store. Like, I'm using Walmart as an example because Costco, Walmart, Target, all the stores are in the same boat. Walmart has to block off half their store so that you can't buy clothing, etc. Mom and Pop store, Joe's Jeans Dungaree store, has to close off his store. So neither one are selling. So where's the advantage? Those people who are going to buy their clothing at Walmart are going to go to Walmart anyway to buy their clothing after everything reopens. Those people who are going to go to Joe's Dungarees are going to go to Joe's Dungarees regardless after everything reopens. The only thing it's doing is costing these stores that are remaining open more money in blocking off their inventory and stocking inventory, more money in staffing their stores to make sure there's no shoplifting, because now you have whole cordon off areas of the building where presumably there's no staff, so they have to have more people walking around to make sure nobody's sneaking into these areas and stealing stuff. So where do you win here? Who's winning? Nobody's winning, and at the end of the day, how is this helping to solve the COVID problem? How does this help? I'm just not clear on this. How this helps? It should maybe be a full lockdown period. Maybe just pharmacies. Well, maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the solution. No shopping at all. You want to shop? Sure. You can shop for food. Order it online or go into the store. Minimum X amount of people in the store. End of story. Pharmacies have to be able to deliver. You call in your prescription, they deliver it to you. Maybe that's the solution. If you want to close down retail, close down retail. Don't close down retail partially and punish John Smith, who owns a small store, and reward Walmart, who owns a big store. That's not fair. It's not right. So one way or the other. I mean, but this whole middle ground is not fair to anybody. And why, pray tell, are hotels still open? I don't understand. If we're not supposed to be going from region to region, we're not supposed to be spreading the disease to other people, why could people still book hotels in various cities? Are hotels immune from COVID? Do people going to hotels, are they immune from COVID? The Montreal Gazette, and everyone knows the show's based in Montreal. The Montreal Gazette on Saturday had an article about Sheraton Hotel. And the Sheraton Hotel says that they had 17% of their occupancy, of their annual occupancy. So they were down like 90% of their occupancy. Shouldn't it be down 100%? Why are people still allowed to travel? If COVID is so dangerous that we have to close down non-essential businesses, if COVID is so dangerous that we had to close down everything except for restaurants for takeout, we can't even sit in a restaurant, and you can't buy clothing, you can only go buy food because apparently COVID doesn't get you at IGA. If COVID is so dangerous, why are hotels still open? Why are airports still open? I don't understand. I don't understand. These rules don't make any sense. And this is what bothers me about them. I'm a fairly logical person. I'm fairly logical. If you've watched the show for years and you've listened to the show for years, you'll know that my brain process works kind of logically. And I look at the way I analyze situations, I analyze them logically. And I don't understand for the life of me. And I've thought about it a lot. Trust me, I've put a lot of thought into this. And I don't understand at all why airports and hotels are still open. I don't understand. That would have been the first thing I would have closed. I would have said, okay, country's closed. Everybody has to stay in our country. If you want to shop, okay, we're all a big bubble living in our province. We're closing the borders. We're not letting anybody leave the province. In fact, we're not even going to let you leave your cities. All the police departments are ordered to keep people in their cities. You stay in your city, you stay in your province, you live your life in your city until we get the thing under control. Why are people still allowed to travel around the world? I don't get it. Okay, so when they come back, they'll have to quarantine. Big deal. They're going to have to quarantine. It's not the solution. If you want to stop COVID, stop people from spreading COVID, then you lock down the people. If you're saying we're in a red zone, then people in the red zone should not be able to travel. People coming to the red zone should not be able to stay in a hotel. Otherwise, what's the point of calling it a red zone? Why are you punishing the citizens who are living there and allowing everybody else to come willy-nilly, free flow of people? I don't get it. Now, on the other hand, I understand that people are sick and tired of quarantines and sick and tired of being locked down. I get it. I understand the frustration. I understand it. But at the same time, if you want to kill an airborne disease, you want to kill people from spreading the disease, stop people from spreading. Doesn't feel like rocket science to me. But everyone's worried about the economy. Oh, but what about the economy? What about the economy? Let me break it to you. Let me break it down simple to you. I'll make it extremely simple. When we talk about the economy and it comes to COVID-19, let's talk about the economy. I'll make it extremely simple. And it's in my mind, it's black and white, really. If you want to talk about the economy and COVID, that's fine. If COVID is so dangerous that you can't go to a synagogue or a church, if COVID is so dangerous that you can't go to a clothing store, or you can't go to a movie, if COVID is that dangerous, that's going to kill you. If you go to a clothing store, a movie, or to a grocery store and shop for clothing, if COVID is going to kill you by doing that, then I don't think the economy really matters. Honestly, if we don't do the quarantines and the lockdowns, if it's that dangerous, and the only solution is quarantine and lockdown, if we don't do the quarantines and lockdowns, then there'll be nobody to work on the economy. There'll be nobody to work in the economy, nobody to drive the economy because we'll all be dead. But, if COVID isn't as dangerous as people say it is, and the economy is the major concern, then we should open the economy and allow people to make money, allow the economy to turn. So you can't have it both ways. It doesn't work that way. They're trying to make it work that way, but life generally doesn't work that way. And having it both ways like that doesn't make too much sense. It makes no sense. It's not logical. And to me, life has to be logical, at least some semblance of logic in life. We have to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. Otherwise, then what's the point in doing it? So once again, I'm at this quandary. I'm at this level. I'm at this point where I don't get it. I just don't understand it because it doesn't make any sense. Maybe someone could explain it to me. 1-877-669-1292. Maybe you could explain it to me because I don't understand it. And I've tried. I've really tried to understand it. Why is it okay to have 25 people in a synagogue that could seat 1,500 people, but it's more okay to have 300 people in a Costco? Why did the economy there? Why did it doesn't make sense. So I mean, look. We're all in this together. We're all living through this together. So I'm not the only one. I'm sure I'm not the only one in the world who's having these thoughts, who's confused by this whole thing, who doesn't understand these draconian measures and doesn't understand how this makes any semblance of sense in a logical, realistic world. I'm sure I'm not the only person who doesn't understand why it's okay to be 25 people in a synagogue, but I can't have 3 people over to my house for dinner. I'm probably not the only person who doesn't understand Why I could go into a Walmart supercenter, and there could be 200 people in the store, and then I can't go to a church that could seat 1,500 people, and there can only be 25 people in that setting. I'm sure people just don't understand it. I mean, because I don't understand it. And I'm not saying that I'm a benchmark for understanding in the world. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that pompous to say that. But it should be a little clearer. I mean, we should have some general understanding on how these decisions are made and why they are made, because they affect each and every one of our lives. Now, not everybody watching or listening will be the kind of person who'll go to a synagogue or go to a church, and that's fine. But I'm sure if you thought about it, you can't explain to me, and I implore you to call in if you can, 1-877-669-1292. But I'm sure that you can't explain to me why a synagogue, let's say the Shar Shemaim Synagogue in Westmount, Quebec, why a synagogue that could seat 2,500 people in their sanctuary is limited to 50 or to 25 people on a Saturday morning, but a Walmart on a Monday morning or a Costco on a Monday morning could have 300 people in their establishment. Maybe you could explain to me the difference between one and the other. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm not a doctor. I never claimed to be one. I'm not a specialist in infectious diseases, and I don't claim to be one. But I'm a logical thinker, and the logic behind all this doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe you could explain to me why, if there were 3,500 cases in schools, it took the government from September to December to shut the schools down. Maybe you could explain that to me. Maybe you could explain to me why the schools are reopening in January, but there's no guarantee that the restaurants and the stores are going to reopen in January. If there were 3,000 cases in schools, shouldn't the schools be closed the same way the stores are being closed? Why the difference between the schools and the stores? Kids are all over themselves, all over each other in schools. I work in a school. I see it. Kids are hugging each other. They're talking to each other. They're sharing food. They're sharing drinks. They're always touching and always around each other. So social distancing in schools doesn't work. So then why would we be reopening the schools and allowing children to contract the diseases that they bring from home and send the disease home with other kids? I don't understand. I don't get it. So, Anissa writes, people don't respect distancing, masks below the nose or chin in synagogues. In stores, you have employees reinforcing the rules. That's not necessarily true. I've been to plenty of stores in the last few weeks in both Montreal and Toronto, and I've seen plenty of stores where there are no employees enforcing any rules. So you have arrows on the floor, nobody's following the arrows, there's no employees forcing them to. You have people wearing masks, some people not wearing masks in stores. I've been to plenty of stores in Montreal and Toronto in the last couple of weeks, and I have seen plenty of COVID violations. Now, I've been to a few synagogue events in synagogues, at various different levels of orthodoxy, and I have seen majority of the people in these synagogue settings wearing the masks properly. The majority. I can't say all, because there's never 100% compliance, right? But the majority I've seen wearing the masks properly. In the supermarkets, the same thing. The majority of people I see in the supermarkets are wearing the masks properly. So, but regardless, so you assign somebody, you hire somebody to enforce the rules in these different institutions. So you have an employee there who's in charge of enforcing the rules. Then what? Then why the difference between one and the other? I don't get it. Why can't it just be a certain percentage of your, if you have 500 seats, 10% of your seats could be filled, or 20% of your seats could be filled? Why is there a general blanket number for synagogues? Now, I have to remind you, and it's an important thing to remind you of, because people are freaking out and people get really upset and angry. But you have to remember that there is no actual scientific study, none, that says masks are effective when it comes to fighting COVID. Now, logically, you'd think they are because you wear a mask and you're expelling your spit comes out of your mouth while you're talking, and so the mask is going to catch that and maybe cut some of the disease, and the other person's wearing a mask and it's going to cut some of the disease that people are breathing in, and therefore, maybe a mask is a little effective in this situation. But there have been no conclusive scientific studies saying that masks are 100% effective in stopping COVID transmission. But it's a good idea to wear them anyway. I mean, just in case. So why not? Why take the chance? I wouldn't take the chance. I'd wear the mask anyway, just because it is a good policy. But I have to remind you, at the beginning of March, they told us that wearing masks increases your chances of catching COVID. So and they told us that there was a simple reason they told us that. They told us that because we had no masks. They had shipped all our masks off to China just a month before COVID hit North America. So if it was okay to not wear a mask in March, why is it not okay to not wear a mask in December? Look, if masks help a little bit, you should wear them. It's not even a question. If washing your hands helps, you should wash your hands. Not even a question. If staying at home in lockdown helps, then we should stay at home in lockdown. But the rules have to make sense. So instead, so telling people to wear a mask is fine. Scaring people that you are going to die if you don't wear the mask is not fine, because that's not true. 99.75% of the people who get COVID survive it. So it's not true that the vast majority of people are going to die if you don't wear a mask. Now, are you going to kill grandma? Possibly. But not everybody who doesn't wear a mask is going to kill grandma. So the media has worked its way into the psyche of the population of North America, and it scared the hell out of people. And the government has fed the media crazy statistical numbers to scare people. Think about the numbers that you're hearing from the media. The amount of cases a day in the province. It's a great number. When they tell us 2,000 cases a day, wow. My heart bleeds for the people who are affected by this and who are generally sick and going to the ICU. But you'll notice that the government and the media never actually tell you, or very rarely, I can't say never, but very rarely tell you how many of those cases turn into a hospital visit? How many of those cases are just like common cold? How many of those cases are nothing, asymptomatic? That statistical breakdown is not given to you. And the reason it's not given to you is simply because if you knew that only 0.01% of the population actually gets really sick from this disease, you won't be scared of it. That is why they withhold these numbers. So, there you go. If you have a medical condition that affects your immune system, you are more likely to get sick than if you don't have a medical condition that affects your immune system. If you contracting the virus too, if you run into somebody who has the virus, there's no guarantee that you got the virus from them. It's all about viral loads and how much of the virus you're sucking into yourself, and how much of the virus the other person's putting out, and how much of the virus you're putting in, how strong your immune system is in fighting new infections in your body. There's a lot of factors involved in this. And now I know it's complicated for the general population. I understand that people don't want to know about viral loads, and they don't want to they want to know about predispositions, and they don't want to know about all this stuff. They just want to know, listen, am I going to get the disease? Am I not going to get the disease? What is the best way for me not to get the disease? That is the question that most people want to know. And that is the question, that's normal. That's normal human nature, that people just want to know, how do I stay safe? The way the government is forcing us to stay safe is quite simply not the way to do it. So, let me ask you this. It's a serious question. If I socially distance myself from everybody, stay 6 feet away from everybody, and I'm standing outside, I don't need to wear a mask because I'm 6 feet away from you. There's no way that your spit is going to hit me, and I'm not going to breathe in your virus because the wind is going to blow it away. We're standing outside. It's perfectly safe for me to stand outside 6 feet away from somebody without a mask on. If I'm standing inside 6 feet away from somebody without a mask on, because the ventilation systems, the way they work, and the airflow in a room, it's a totally different concept, a totally different way of looking at how airflow works. And so if I'm inside in a room and I don't have good ventilation, my chances of catching the virus are higher than if I have good ventilation. So if I have the windows open, it's different than if I have the air conditioning on, it's different. If I have a HEPA filter or an air purifier, it's much different. So there's many different ways that we could determine on what is safe and what is not safe. Now, the government can't go into all these specifics. I mean, let's be realistic. The government can't tell you that okay, if you're doing this and then you're not doing that and you're doing this and you're doing that, then it can't be a big debate like that because nobody will ever understand it. So the government has to make blanket rules. And the blanket rules generally don't make sense, and we understand that. So we're clear on the fact that the COVID rules make no sense, and that leaving a Walmart open and closing Joe's shoe shop doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. It's just done because it's like the placebo effect. It makes people feel good that the government's doing something, and it makes people feel that they're being protected by their government, when in reality the government is hurting the poor business owners more than anyone else. For a disease that is perfectly curable, and we know it is. So what's the solution? How do we get over this hump? Where do we go now? How do we fix this problem? So if everybody in the province followed the government regulations, put on a mask when you go into a place where you can't socially distance, or in a place where the chances of catching the virus are a little higher than not. Keep your masks clean, wash your hands, and take part in the lockdown as much as possible. Stay away from as many people as you can. If everybody does this for 3 weeks, the virus takes 2 weeks to incubate. So if everyone does this for 3 weeks, then we could cut the viral load down a tremendous amount. This is what every expert says, but everybody has to comply. And the problem is, it's almost like Russian roulette, as Anissa said. It's almost like Russian roulette. If people don't follow the rules, and there are a bunch of idiots out there who realize that the rules are stupid but won't follow them, and they put other people into jeopardy, of course. So you had that anti-mask protest last week, which was really a dumb protest. Why are you protesting masks? What is the big deal about putting a mask on when you're in a situation where people where you have the possibility of transmitting a disease or catching a disease from somebody else? What is the big deal of putting a mask on? Is it an infringement of your human rights? I don't know. Is it? Is it really an infringement of your human rights for me to tell you to put a mask on? If I have a store and I tell you you have to wear a shirt and you have to wear shoes or I'm not giving you service, is that infringement of your human rights too? Why aren't you complaining about that? Why don't you complain about the indecent exposure laws, which doesn't allow you to walk in the street naked? Isn't that an infringement of your human rights? I mean, you should be able to walk naked in the street if you want to, shouldn't you? So, I mean, the argument is ridiculous. It's absolutely ludicrous. So what is the reality behind that argument? Why are people actually doing that? And the simple reason is it's really quite simple. Ignorance. People are ignorant. They're stupid. Now, I don't mean to insult people. I just think that people who go out and protest wearing a mask are dunderheads. That's what I think. And I've already said, and I'll repeat it again because I'm not ashamed to say it, that there is no conclusive study that says that masks are effective at all in the stopping of transmission of COVID. The scientists believe that by wearing a mask, you might be able to delay the transmission because you're going to you might be able to delay the transmission because less viral load comes out. Some of it gets caught up in the mask. So you might be able to delay the transmission, but there is no conclusive evidence to say that masks stop the transmission of COVID. And so the media is scaring people, and the media telling people that if you don't wear a mask, you're killing grandma, is a ridiculous statement. So now that we're clear on that, people protesting wearing masks are as idiotic as the government or the media yelling that not wearing a mask is going to kill your parents. Totally ridiculous. Both sides are totally ridiculous, and normally that's the case. By the way, when you go to the two polarities of any given issue, the two radical sides of any given issue, both sides are ridiculous, and that's generally the way it works. But this is even more ridiculous because, in this point here, in this case here, you may actually be putting someone's life in danger by not wearing a mask. Now, why, Howie? You said that the viral loads, blah blah blah. Yes, it's true, and there's no conclusive evidence. You're right, 100%. But what if? Just what if? It's hypothetical. I like hypotheticals. So I work in hypotheticals a lot. What if the person that you're talking to in a closed room without a mask on was just talking to somebody else in the same closed room without a mask on, and that person had COVID-19 and was spreading his virus, and this person inhaled a little bit of the virus. And then he came to talk to you, and you have COVID-19, but you're asymptomatic, you don't even know you have it, and you're breathing, and you're talking to this person, and you're sending this person the viral load from you. So your viral load and that other guy's viral load might actually give you COVID. So why is it an imposition for anybody to wear a mask? I don't get it. And maybe you could explain to me. Maybe there's an anti-masker out there who wants to call in and tell me. 1-877-669-1292. I mean, you could call in and yell at me and tell me that I'm stupid, because I feel stupid sometimes. When I look at these rules and I say to myself, what are they doing? I'm like, why are these rules in existence? This doesn't make any logical sense. Sometimes I feel dumb. Sometimes I feel like maybe I'm missing something. So I go and I read the actual laws. I go and I read the edicts, and I read the words that are written demanding that the population do whatever they're told to do. And sometimes I feel even dumber after reading that, because that makes no sense. So where is the dichotomy here? Where do we go? How do we solve this? How do we finish this? So the dunderheads that are protesting masks have to stop protesting masks and start putting them on. The dunderheads that are telling us that it's okay to shop at Walmart but not okay to shop at shoe store have to stand back and shut up, and allow people to run their businesses, run them safely, run them under COVID care, let's say. So follow the COVID rules, restrict the amount of people in the store, force people to wash their hands before they go into the store, force people to wear masks. And people should be allowed to run their businesses like that. And the government should shut down hotels, shut down the highways, and shut down the airports, and not allow people in and out of the different regions until the virus is dead. Lock down the regions. Now, not lock down the people in the regions, but lock the regions themselves down. Sure, we could fight and fight and fight internally to try to get COVID under control. We could fight eternally to try to get COVID under control amongst the population. But the second some idiot from wherever comes in and stays at a hotel and then decides to walk over to a local restaurant and order food, and he has COVID and he gives COVID to the next guy, we're starting all over again. So, if it's okay for families to be in bubbles, and it's okay for single people to join family bubbles, then we should make the entire province, the entire state, into a bubble, and not allow anybody in or out of our province or our state. We should close them up and allow this virus to die out. That's my solution to this. That's really my solution to this. It's the only way a lockdown is going to work. You have to lock down the region. I know people who are traveling right now. I know people who are in New York who are going to come back, from New York and have to be in 2-week quarantine, but they're coming back. We shouldn't be allowing this. This should be illegal. You want to kill COVID? Let's be serious about it. Oh, but what about the economy? Like I said, if everybody's dead, as you're telling me COVID is so dangerous that everybody's going to die, if everybody's going to die, then the economy means nothing. Let's just stop the economy, close everything down, and start fresh after everybody's healthy. If it's not the economy, then open it up. So it's one or the other. But this in-between road that we're on right now makes no sense to me. I'm Howie Silbiger. Call in 1-877-669-1292. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. This is what I really believe this. This is what I really believe in. And I don't think that this lockdown is going to work. And I really don't think that we are going to find the solution to COVID by not locking everything down. But I'm not in government. And the government doesn't listen to me. They don't care what I have to say. And, you start talking, you start writing, you start publishing stuff, and the government looks at you and says, all right, yeah, okay, whatever. And they don't listen. Our government officials are there for themselves. They're not there for us. And if you look in the States, the government officials that put in these draconian laws and force people to kill their businesses and kill their province and kill their country and kill the economy are not even following the rules themselves. So how are we all supposed to take it seriously? How are we all supposed to take it seriously when the premier of Quebec gets up and says, all right, we're going to give you a 4-day break from COVID lockdowns to celebrate Christmas, but you can't celebrate Hanukkah. How do you take him seriously? I know he canceled it afterwards. Oh, no, we can't do that. But how do you take it seriously when they come to you and say and tell you for months and months and months, COVID is so deadly you can't walk out of your house, you have to wear a mask, you can't see anybody, nobody can come visit you. How do you take them seriously when they tell you, all right, so 4 days you could go and do whatever you want? It doesn't make sense. It is absolutely wrong that the government should be controlling this. Doctors should be controlling it. This should not be a political thing. This should be a medical thing. But it's not. It is political. And that's where the problem lies. So once again, how do we solve the problem? How do we get away from the problem? How do we deal with the problem? As a society, we have to speak up. As a people, we have to speak up. We can't sit back quietly. We can't sit back and accept it. We have to be vocal. Now, we have to be vocal smartly. We can't be vocal like the idiots who went out and were anti-mask protests and got hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines. That's idiotic. You can't be idiotic. You got to be smart about it. So you got to speak to your members of the National Assembly, your members of your legislative assemblies, your members of Parliament. You got to speak to the elected officials, and you got to tell them, listen, we don't mind following the rules. Look, Canadians have been the most compliant people in the entire world when it comes to following COVID regulations. So we don't mind following the rules. But in order for us to follow the rules, they have to make a little bit of sense. And this is where we have to draw the line, and we have to say, they have to make sense. It has to be logical. It can't be destroying people's families and destroying people's lives and destroying people's livelihoods. We can't accept that. This is not an acceptable situation. It's not a sustainable situation. We must tell our elected officials, we must insist that they close down hotels, that they close down the entrances to the provinces, the borders of the provinces, and they don't allow people to go back and forth between the provinces, between the states. We have to insist on that. If you want to kill COVID, this is the way you kill COVID. Otherwise, you're just running in circles. So on January 11th, when the COVID when the COVID restrictions are supposed to come to an end, the government's going to get up on January 9th or 10th and say, "Hey, listen, the numbers haven't gone down enough that we could reopen the society, so we're going to have to keep you closed for a little longer." And then on January 28th, they're going to get up again and say, "Listen, unfortunately, we can't do this, and we're going to have to keep you closed for a little longer. We apologize." And then people are going to go out of business, and people are going to start losing their livelihoods, and another $1 trillion of aid are going to have to be given by the government. We're going to go more and more into debt. People's lives are going to be destroyed, families crushed, businesses closed, and at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to be real is the fact that even after the vaccine, even after every last person in the province, in the country, is vaccinated twice, COVID will still exist. It's not going anywhere. The vaccine will not wipe out COVID. It's going to be like the flu. It goes away, it comes back. It goes away, it comes back. So even after all the lockdowns and all the destruction and everything else, COVID is with us forever. And until we accept that, and until we believe that and accept that, until we understand that, and until we destigmatize it and take the fear out of it and realize that the majority of the population will survive being infected by COVID, we are going to be living in this chaos that we've been living in for the last year. This absolute crazy chaos. We have to get out of the chaos. We have to stop this. And the only way we could do that is through our government officials and through our medical officials. We must insist that our government and our medical officials start telling us the truth. And you know what the real honest truth is in this whole thing? Something that the government says, but nobody actually listens to. I'll tell you. The only reason the government is locking us down, the only reason the government closed down businesses, ruined people's lives, destroyed the economy of the country, spent trillions of dollars in financial aid, put us deep and deep and deep into debt. The only reason they did that was to save our hospital system. You see, the hospital system for the last 20 or 30 years has been woefully underfunded. The government has spent less money on hospitals than anything else. In fact, they've closed hospitals, merged hospitals in order to save money. The health of the population was less important than saving the money that it cost to run the hospitals. It's the problem with living in a socialistic system. When you don't have private hospitals, you're relying on the government to spend the money. And when the government has to balance budgets and the government has to worry about every last penny and worry about negotiating with other parties to appease each other, hospitals usually get the short end of the stick. So the government realizes that their hospitals are woefully underfunded, understaffed, underfunded. And so when people start going to the hospital because they're having problems breathing after contracting COVID, the government is worried that the hospital system is going to collapse. This whole thing, the lockdowns, the masks, the hand sanitizers at the stores, the destruction of businesses, the closing of the economy, this whole thing, all of it, isn't because the government cares about your health. Because the government cares about saving their hospital system. And that is the gosh honest truth. And if you don't believe me, please don't believe me. Just go and watch any of the press conferences where they talk about overwhelming the hospital systems. And we're doing this to not overwhelm the hospital systems. Why do you think the hospital systems would be overwhelmed. We're talking about 500 people with COVID a day, or 1,000 or 2,000 people a day. How many hospitals are there in the province? There should be more than enough resources in these hospitals to deal with 2,000 people. I mean, it's 2,000 active cases a day, so 2,000 active cases from yesterday and 2,000 active cases from today, or some of them are the same cases. And some of those cases, the people don't go to the hospital. So when we're talking about 0.01% of the people infected by COVID going to the hospital, and you look at hospitals and they say, oh, there's 26 people in a hospital in Montreal. You look at the hospitals, they have 300 rooms. Why would 26 people be a threat to overwhelm the hospitals? This is not a question anybody's asking, but it's a question that should be asked. We should understand this. We should understand that the government has underfunded and understaffed our hospitals for years and years and years. And now they are using COVID to try to save them. Once that clarity sets in, once you understand that these things aren't here to protect you and me and grandma, nobody cares if I die, nobody cares if you die, nobody cares if grandma dies. These measures are put in to protect the hospital system, so the government doesn't have to infuse more money into it. Once you understand that this is all about money, all about budgets, all about the hospitals, then it makes the disease a hell of a lot less scary, doesn't it? I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show. We're heard live every Sunday night. We're heard on Tuesday nights, and a Tuesday night at midnight, Political Hitman, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. And let me tell you a little bit about True Talk Radio, because I don't know if you know. TrueTalkRadio.com is a internet radio station. We have a lot of shows. There's a whole lot of shows. So you could see the schedule by going to TrueTalkRadio.com. It airs. We have an app. It airs on our app, the True Talk Radio Network app. You could stream it off the website, TrueTalkRadio.com. And some of the shows are very interesting. We have a lot of political shows. Over the weekend, we play old-time radio from the 1940s and 50s and 60s. Late nights, we play the same thing, old-time radio. But during the week, we play political shows all day long. So if you're into politics and you love listening to political shows, we have right-wing shows, left-wing shows, a whole gamut of all sorts of political shows on TrueTalkRadio.com. Starting in January, my friend, he wasn't here tonight. He's usually on the show. Sheldon Eric Freed will be starting a music show. It'll air from 7 to 9 on True Talk Radio every night of the week on TrueTalkRadio.com. So there's plenty of stuff going on. And if you have a podcast or a show that you would like to produce, or that you're currently producing and you'd like a venue to air it, you can send me an email, howie@truetalkradio.com, and I'd be more than happy to take a look at your show, and maybe we could air it on True Talk Radio. I'm gonna let you go now. You could feel free to email me, howie@truetalkradio.com. I will address your emails in the next show. And, of course, if you want to leave a voicemail, you could do so, too, by calling 1-877-669-1292 and pressing extension 1 and just leaving a message there. And if your message is a question or it's a comment and it's appropriate, we will air it on the show and we will respond to it. So feel free to do that off air, 1-877-669-1292, extension 1. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you again next week, or I'll see you again on Tuesday, actually. Tuesday, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. See you then.